First, I was a traditional college student. When I started my adventure, I went to a place called Eureka College. Ronald Reagan went there, and Binkley were the two big famous folks, a Nobel laureate and a president. It was just a really small school, played football and got a traditional business and communications degree, so I double majored. Got out in a couple years and got into the real world, and it was a corporate environment. I was never exposed to any tech trade schools. I didn't know about it, but I built everything for everybody in every classroom, in every room. I was in undergrad and colleges, and I'd always fix stuff around the house. You would have thought that somebody would have mentioned to me something about technical education. And I always wanted to go into a field where you fix things. And in college, I had worked at a place called GE Plastics, which was pretty big in Ottawa, Illinois. And I was just a summer intern person. And I got to see this maintenance mechanic working. And I'd always fix things or help people with whatever I could. And it got to the point where they were letting me run this $1 million equipment with all these steam lines and mixers and crazy computers and stuff just by myself, the summer intern punk college kid, you know? I got really good at all of it and just learned all the systems, and I loved that kind of stuff, and that was my world and wheelhouse. And even after I got out of college, I just didn't like that. I mean, I like the corporate world and I like business and, you know, all the things that come with it and the communication, the networking, but it didn't satisfy that need of technical education. So I had to make a conscious decision because I could not get a maintenance job unless I had a maintenance degree. So I went back to community college and I got 3 degrees in industrial maintenance technology, electrical electronic automated systems, and HVACR. And while I was in school, we won first place in what's called ISA, the International Society of Automation. There was only a regional thing where everybody came from around the country in South Dakota, and we took first place by a landslide. And I learned from some of the greatest, I think, technical educators of the time who are responsible for a lot of books and a lot of innovation on programs. Started getting into it so much, they started asking, could you teach a class? Even before I was completely done. And having experienced all those different areas and sides, I work with industrial folks. I have relationships on the manufacturing end, business experience, background. I went and got an MBA in Energy and Sustainable Studies, which is kind of a unique thing, but it's an Energy and Sustainable Studies, and it was a fun master's program. Mike Muiman out of Franklin Pierce College, he does a great job and some cool blogs on energy analysis from a power plant or grid level perspective. Think about how valuable that is when I talk about grids and knowledge and how everything works from a utility perspective. That background all came from his world. And as I got into energy and I was working industrial maintenance, and you know, I was a rookie in industrial maintenance, and all the guys that have been there 35 years were like, and there's 35 mechanics, and they're like, you should just make Bob an A mechanic, because I was fixing things that the engineers couldn't fix, the architects, the designers, the people that paid millions of dollars couldn't fix by just using fundamentals. And I realized the importance of fundamentals. And I always thought commercial HVAC technicians were, you know, so far beyond everybody. I was like this hierarchy of these people know so much things. And I got into it and I had another problem. Our country does a poor job of how they should be approaching learning outcomes. So one of the hardest things as a teacher to understand is getting students to get the right skills the most efficiently and the most effective way possible so that they can practically support their families and have a successful career. I teach all incumbent industrial maintenance workers. It doesn't matter if it was ExxonMobil, Exelon Nuclear. I've been around the world in power packaging and Gelser Corporation I work with, and I teach them all industrial electricity and all these other levels of electric and things to understand, and pipe fitting, whatever it be. And it's just fascinating to learn and know all the different worlds, and the fundamentals from all of these areas kind of fuse together. There's ways that I think it's done better in industrial maintenance than it's done in HVAC. And you know, the concepts of pipe fitting and stuff that I learned from some of the greatest teachers, I think, in technical education that ever existed, like Jeff Bradford out of Joliet Junior College is incredible, and John Kepke and Jerry Rayno, Joe Thomas. You never forget those people that showed you a way. But they had their way, and it wasn't everybody's. And they asked me when I got hired over at COD, they said, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And I looked at the vice president and I said, "I'll have the best program in the country within 5 years." And they were like, "What?" And they were like, "Oh," 5 years later, like, "Damn, here it is." And the best program doesn't mean you have the best lab. It also doesn't mean that you have the best lab that was built by students and not paying out contractors. It also doesn't mean having the most students. It doesn't mean the most enrollment. It's holding the line for one, work ethic, or the 10 things that require zero talent, to have passion, the right attitude, the soft skills embedded in all the classes, and the best people. And we have the best program, I believe, because we have the best teachers. And it varies from 22 to 26, and we have students that come in. And I got to getting over at COD, and I ended up going to get a doctorate. And I started studying this guy's work named Peter Crabtree after I had made it to a best event in hot Atlanta, Georgia, and was fascinated with his move towards high performance building education. And I ended up basing my entire dissertation on a lot of his work too, to continue that and carry the torch, because it's an important thing for our world. And sustainability and energy, and how much I ever joke about climate change, it's a meaningful cause that I believe in. That's kind of my journey from that perspective. And I'm still trying to figure it out now with our classes and our scheduling. I think I got a really good hold on how to roll out a program, how to work together, and even potentially create an inner network of people that can get through and graduate. And technical education is not just a vocation, it's a way of life that'll sustain any family and bring them out of poverty, once you understand it. And there's not enough push for it. So I'm involved with CTE policy at a state level. I'm involved with the policy at a national level, and I talk to folks. There's another problem here. It's I can be the best technician, but now I need to go make the best technicians. And I'm at this level now where I almost think the next stage of what I got to do in life is not just make the best technicians, go make the best teachers and continue that work and try to help folks that way too, and these programs across the country that don't have a chance, and they might not have the same drive. And not everybody's going to spend their personal time like I do working on a lab and developing your own trainers and building stuff, and nobody should be expected to. But the priorities of education and how people are rewarded physically, I had to go get a doctorate. Why couldn't I just use my lab that was a cutting edge lab and all this technology that were brought to that community to create my progression on a pay scale? And people don't think like that. Why? It's because generally educated people are the leaders of technical education in America. And they don't know what it's like to work a day in their life, technically. But they're given leadership advice about it because they have a doctorate. And that's wrong, because that's why when we look at this entire world here, technical education, and we have a skilled workforce crisis is happening, is because of the leadership at a state, local, and national level. And that's a huge issue in America. Think about the person who's in charge of the Office of Career and Technical Education now, a philosophy major. Not to say that John Dewey didn't do philosophy, but I would beg and urge someone to ask that question. How do you resolve these workforce issues? There's so much red tape that stops the person that should be the teacher because of a lack of education from even considering these positions, because they don't have income potential that they do in the real workforce. And it all comes down to how contracts are written, how people are influenced. But at the same time, you have to have the same academic rigor in a technical program, not just throw money at people, but make them work for it across the scale. And I'm working on a plan now, our union contract's open, to create a model that I can share with other folks, because this is a problem, but the problem always is stifled locally. So in education, that's the thing, is if you don't understand the national, state, and then also local game and how the whole system works, right? You can't fix the problem. You just push the problem to another area. And that's what we do in education. So we push these problems to other areas. And you really have to have a systems thinking approach.
Could you describe a little bit about the College of DuPage program that you've developed, and where was it when you started? And
so I probably threw 28 truckloads of garbage out. We didn't have any tools.
How long have you been there?
2013.
2013, about 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. And threw 28 truckloads of stuff out when I got there. We had maybe 1 or 2 adjuncts left from the original. You have to clean house, and people don't know what that takes, just the organizational problem there. You know, we didn't have new equipment, everything was broken, didn't work, and it was a big footprint, a big space.
Are you the only
No, there's another full-time instructor, and you know, I think, you know,
you've got about, what, how many thousand square feet in there?
13,000, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge space.
It's a huge space, and we got the pad that we're feeding snowmelt tubes into with good and bad mixing strategies, something nobody would ever do, but we're doing it for learning and education. And that space is being worked on right now with concrete crashers, and our students are going to put all the HVAC components in it and set it all up. It'll be an awesome experience, and take pictures and document it, and you know, the whole shebang there. But you know, revamping it and having an industry look, and the idea was build a lab with the students and do it in a way that hinges on quality and the right way, right? So that when industry folks walk in, they're like, whoa, I can't do piping like this. Or, you know, and I don't care what it is. If they don't do it right, I just cut it out and make them do it again. So we busted everything down into a core. But our core, because students don't know what to do, and they don't know how many fascinating fields there are in HVAC. We set our curriculum where the core classes hit all the basics, and it was like the core fundamentals of HVAC, and in each of those classes we gave them career advice about all the different pathways and salaries and job positions. And the whole point of having that core, it applies to all of our degrees: facility maintenance, stationary operator stuff, those tracks, energy, contractors, building automation. It applies to every degree track or certificate track that we have, so you don't lose any time. But now you get to get a flavor of everything and then make an informed decision about what track you want to be on. And we almost made it to the point where the degrees are choose your own adventure at the top of the key with emphasis tracks. We probably have like 5 certificates.
So you have, and there's certificates?
And then there's degrees.
And do they have their
Yeah, certificate would be like a 30-hour, right? And then degrees are, you know, the 60, I think I have them at 64, that's our college minimum.
What are your 3 degrees?
Facility maintenance mechanic.
Yeah.
So that's the job that they post. So I made the degree track. I had facility management, but I'm using that as a 4-year option. I finally got a 3+1 almost ready to go through North Dakota, so that you can do 3 years at COD and then 1 year in North Dakota, yeah, just online. And then you have a business project management rollout where facility management takes place. It's something different. So they can do higher level energy classes with us and that kind of thing. Yeah. So we have a 3+1 almost done, but we have facility maintenance mechanic track. We have a HVAC contractor, so somebody owning their own personal business. And then we also have a HVAC service technician. So we have those 3, and then building automation is a certificate for 30 hours. So they'll take certificates, they'll take degree tracks, some take multiple degree tracks, and they just get whatever class they can out of it, because if you're providing value, insight, knowledge, and skills, they want all they can get. And I've got tons of success stories with students that, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year they're making with their own business. And if they know the right teachers are doing them, you know, they're all taking those tracks now and they're getting involved with it and they like it, and some come back and are taking them. I mean, it's starting to roll really well now, and I got a way to get them through it and finish and have completers with, the higher level courses, because you got to have enough students for a class to run. But if you play your cards right, you can stack them on a class where you have time, and then get those folks to participate while you're teaching another class, and you have that time window and the focus on the BAS stuff. Every single class, I have math problems, word problems. Everybody talks a good game out there, but they don't understand what the BTU is. And the master's program I went through, you calculate what would you have to charge per therm or per kilowatt hour to be a successful power plant, right? And you're looking at the net present value of things and how to set up power plants, utilities, all that other kind of stuff. Well, every time I went somewhere, I'd ask somebody, well, how much money does that really save me? And obviously the net present value method of evaluating an investment is very important. So when I first started there, I was like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. And I have all these word problems made of a furnace, gas furnace versus an electric furnace, high efficiency versus low efficiency. And they have to calculate how many BTUs versus runtime and how much energy it's actually using. So this is one example of different structured ways that is infused in all of our classes with energy. Is first you have to understand how to calculate it. Doesn't matter if you know it's just energy. People always throw the buzzword out there, but they don't even know what it means. They don't even know that the world and the EIA and everyone is, counting the world in quads of BTUs, and how we report. I love infusing energy and sustainability in the design of our classes, in hydronics, pump energy and management. I didn't want to go into those conversations this morning when I was talking, and I just try to keep it cut and dry, but there's so many more dynamics that happen there that folks don't realize. And we were talking about chillers and when do you turn this pump on or that pump? Well, people don't realize that sometimes it's a better strategy to have a 60-40 makeup so that that system can run at 100%. People use the word efficiency incorrectly all the time. They confuse efficiency with watts, and watts have nothing to do with it. You're just not using as much energy. But the second you start derating and slowing motors down, speeding them up, fans, whatever it is, the second you slow them down, there's a direct ratio of efficiency that's dropping. So you might have a 95% efficient motor, but only 95% at a specific RPM. And everybody's like, whoa, it's more efficient when I slow it down. No, it costs less money. That's it. You're not using as many watts. Now that motor's running very inefficient. And people don't realize that. And they have no idea how all of it works together. And really, you have to understand those fundamentals. And that's what we teach when we teach about energy is this is what's really happening in a motor. This is what's really happening in a pump. This is how a pump relates to the motor. This is how your compressor, it's just a pump. And how you break it into fundamental fractals. And fractal being the reoccurring themes that naturally are seen in everything. So we try to fuse together the fluid dynamics, we fuse together the energy dynamics, the sustainability dynamics, why systems are used, and what is more important. Technical and vocational education is it. And not everybody's created equal. And what is fascinating is you can develop that discipline in any student that's willing to work hard. They're not willing to work hard, you let them learn the hard way. But I want people that want to work hard. I want people that do work hard for it. I'll take and spend the extra time. I'll go the extra mile and make it happen. Because that's real equity. That's what the whole point of all that stuff is. I think it's like how we do everything. I think it's how we do everything. And you gotta crawl, then you walk, and then you run, and then you can sprint. Genius is taking something that's super complex and making it as simple as possible. Genius is simplicity. And the second that you can take a super complicated concept and break it down into a common language, like the printing press, right? Changed the whole world. Why? Because it put the Bible in a common language. And I think technical education knowledge is like that, where you can build upon it. And to think in systems, you have to take an adventure through all the parts. And once you get through the parts, once you get through the pieces, once you get through the processes and the sequences and experiences, then you can tie it all together at a system level, and then it really makes sense. And that's how you have to treat everything, whether it's electricity, running, walking, understanding furnace combustion. It doesn't matter what it is. And by the end of these classes, you have these people that are thinking and firing at a higher level than techs that have been out there 5, 10 years. And when we have really great techs, you know, I always get the owners that come in and they want more. And it's systems thinking, especially in the one field that systems thinking is based on, is HVAC. You need all of the pieces in order to make sense of that. Otherwise, it's just buzzwords. And education is more guilty than anything else of buzzwords. Power words for HVAC. And when the students give me the business of vapor compression, I have to tell them all the time, like, way to go with your HVAC power words for the day. Now, how does it work? And I go through a Socratic method to understand each of them. And I challenge every single person when I go through that in their minds. And when they ask me something, I make them think about what it's doing, what it's going to be, so they're not just trying to watch you do something and recreate it. That recursive education, rote learning crap that happens in the K through 12 systems is not what you need to be successful in HVAC. So you're almost retooling, you know, people's minds. And was that Piaget or whatever, his 3 fundamentals of all education, like one of the founding fathers of education, right, is the mind, the heart, and the hands. It's the 3 key variables you need. And they've lost the hands in the K through 12 system. They've lost it in a lot of community colleges too, and it's buzzwords and fancy lab equipment that never gets used. Millions of dollars wasted and spent on stuff that never gets used. Our industry reach, we have a network day, and we once a year, I only got horsepower for once a year, but we had 330 hot dogs, 300 were gone. Just think about the people that participated in the eating side of that, right? But we had, our entire lab is filled up with manufacturers, companies, and they set up all their own booths, like a trade show. And I couldn't make it around one time, because you just talk. Some lady had joined me from the Energy Codes Conference. I invited everybody there that wanted to come over to our event and see what it was really like at a real program, to showcase this is how you help the workforce. And this is what every school, I believe, should be doing. And it connects the community and the industry to the students. And it's funded through Perkins, and we get food and stuff.
You bring all your industry partners?
All of them, from everywhere. And it's just packed. Whole lab, you can't walk around in there, is packed to the gills. And there's giveaways for the students. There's companies trying to hire people from multiple industries, multiple ways. Building automation companies from places, mechanical contractors, refrigeration, residential contractors. And, you know, they get to see what the students are building. I have the students interface with them. And they wear, you know, sometimes I can get shirts. Every other year I'm doing shirts where the students will all be in their shirts, and everybody knows them. And they're not trying to hire, you know, another owner of another company, because all the owners are there. Like, where are the students? Let me at them. You know, like, I want to know. And they get to see what they're building and what we're doing. And the other thing, you know, a lot of people say those who can do, those who can't teach. And I always say, yeah, that's true for most people in education. But those who really can teach those that do. And I teach a lot of incumbent workers. And now we're working with, like I said, one of the biggest mechanical contractors in the whole nation is flying their people in there. I'm going to start doing it regularly, class after class after class. And these are people at top tier mechanical contractors that are coming to our school from all over the country to learn HVAC because of how we do things. And that's why we have access to one of the biggest building automation companies in the world. It's because of the folks that I've developed relationships with over the last 10 years of my life. And I think we got a winner here. And if they're willing to go the mile and support us rethinking how this works, I think it's going to be great. But those industry relationships don't just magically appear. It's interesting. I have more industry relationships than any person at our entire institution. We're one of the biggest in the whole country. And it's just because of reputation, what you do, and how you do it. And if you're doing it right, they will come.